All right, today we're cracking open the pages of Flavius Josephus's The Jewish War, and we're jumping into a chapter that is just packed with grief, fury, and a truly brutal quest for revenge. This is the story of how a deep, personal loss became the fuel for a king's unstoppable rise to power. Let's get into it.
So, to really get what's going on here, you've got to know the players. This isn't just a war between two armies. It's more like a blood feud. You've got Herod, the king backed by Rome, and his brothers Joseph and Pheroras. Their rival is Antigonus, who's fighting to take the throne for himself. Then you have the generals, Pappus on one side and the Roman Sosius on the other. But the relationship that really matters here, the one that kicks this whole thing off, is between Herod and his brother Joseph. Because what happens to Joseph? Well, that's the spark that lights the whole firestorm.
So, where does this all kick off? Well, it starts with a single, fatal mistake. This is the story of how a brother met a tragic end.
Okay, so here's the setup. Herod had left his brother Joseph in charge, but he gave him one crystal-clear order: do not engage Antigonus's army until I get back. But Joseph, he gets a little bold. He takes 5 cohorts of new, inexperienced Syrian troops and marches toward Jericho, probably to grab the corn harvest. Big mistake. Antigonus's forces were waiting, and they ambushed them in the mountains. Joseph fought like a lion, but he and his entire force were completely wiped out.
Now, a military victory is one thing, but what Antigonus does next, this is what turns a war into a personal vendetta. He doesn't just defeat Joseph, he finds his body, and in an act of just pure contempt, he mutilates it. This wasn't about strategy anymore, this was a message, and it was deeply, deeply personal.
And to give you a sense of how big of an insult this was, think about this number: 50 talents. Herod's other brother, Pheroras, was desperate to get Joseph's body back for a proper burial. He offered a fortune, a literal king's ransom, for its return. We're talking about a staggering amount of silver, enough to fund a whole army.
But Antigonus says no. Josephus tells us he cut off Joseph's head and completely ignored the offer of 50 talents. And that's the whole point, right? By refusing the money, Antigonus made it absolutely clear this wasn't about profit or victory. It was about humiliation. He was trying to destroy Herod's family, body and soul. And for Herod, this meant one thing, and one thing only: vengeance. So word gets back to Herod, and his reaction? Wow, it's fast, it's furious, and honestly, it feels a little supernatural.
Josephus adds this amazing little detail here. While Herod is far away, he starts having these dreams, these nightmares really, that his brother was dead. He literally leaps out of bed, totally disturbed, and at that exact moment, the messengers arrive with the terrible news. It's like fate itself was trying to warn him.
And this right here tells you everything you need to know about Herod's character. Does he grieve? Sure, for a moment, but he pushes it aside. He immediately gets his army on the move, a forced march, gathering more troops as he goes. He's driven by this one single burning purpose: to get revenge for his brother. For him, mourning was a luxury he couldn't afford. Action was all that mattered.
So as Herod is on this furious march, some really strange things start to happen. Things that make his own men wonder if he's just a great general, or if maybe, just maybe, he's got some kind of divine protection.
And this event in Jericho just solidifies that idea. Picture this: Herod throws a big feast for his top commanders. They all eat, they drink, and then they leave. And moments, literally moments, after the last person walks out the door, the entire house collapses into a pile of rubble. They all escaped certain death by minutes. Now Herod doesn't see this as luck. He sees it as a sign from God, a sign that he's on the right path and that he is meant to survive whatever comes next.
Okay, so now Herod is fueled by grief, rage, and this powerful belief that he's on a divine mission. He's closing in on the man who actually killed his brother, Antigonus's general, Pappus. This is where vengeance gets paid in blood.
Herod's attack isn't just a battle. It's a systematic annihilation. First, he smashes the enemy army in the open field. Then, as they run for cover back in their village, his army pushes right in with him, giving them zero time to regroup. And what happens next is just brutal. He orders his men to literally tear the houses apart to get to the soldiers hiding inside. They shake the roofs down, crushing them. And anyone who manages to crawl out of the rubble is immediately cut down with swords.
And the description from Josephus himself? It is absolutely chilling. He says the number of bodies piled up in the streets was so immense that Herod's own victorious soldiers couldn't even walk through the village. This wasn't a battle. It was a statement, a brutal payment for the insult against his brother.
And if you thought things couldn't get any crazier, get this. After all that carnage, Herod, hot and exhausted, goes to a bathhouse with just one servant. And who does he find hiding inside? A bunch of armed enemy soldiers. They've got him. Their conqueror is standing there, completely defenseless. But instead of attacking, they just run. They were so terrified of him, they just sprinted right past him and fled. I mean, can you imagine? This moment just cemented his legend.
The very next day, Herod delivers the final act of his revenge. He finds the body of Pappus, the general who killed Joseph. He has his head cut off and sends it to his brother, Pheroras. It's a gruesome, bloody message, but it's the perfect answer to Antigonus's insult. A head for a head. The personal debt was finally paid.
So the personal score has been settled. But Herod's not done, not by a long shot. Now he turns his focus from personal revenge to the ultimate prize, taking Jerusalem and securing his kingdom for good.
This next part shows just the sheer incredible confidence of Herod. As his army starts the huge job of besieging Jerusalem, tearing down suburbs, building siege towers, Herod himself just leaves. He takes a little trip to Samaria. And why? To get married to Marianne, a bride from a very powerful family. He is literally waging a war for his kingdom and planning his future dynasty at the exact same time. The audacity is just off the charts.
And he could afford to be that confident, because, just look at the army he'd put together. This wasn't just his own guys anymore. The Roman general Sosius showed up with a massive force sent by Mark Antony himself. All told, they had 11 regiments of infantry, 6,000 cavalry, plus a ton of Syrian auxiliaries. They set up camp right outside Jerusalem's north wall. The city was completely surrounded. Its fate was sealed.
And this really gets to the heart of Herod's power. His legal claim to be the king of Judea, that came from a piece of paper, a decree from the Roman Senate. But the foundation of his actual power, the thing that was going to make that decree real, that was Roman steel. Thousands and thousands of soldiers ready to tear the city walls down. His authority was a 1-2 punch of Roman law and overwhelming Roman force.
And all this leaves us with one final big question to think about. Herod was clearly a brilliant tactician, a ruthless commander, but he also had prophetic dreams and these insane miraculous escapes from death. He absolutely believed he was chosen by a higher power. So it really makes you wonder, for a guy like Herod, where does brilliant strategy end and a powerful belief in your own destiny begin?